Reprise du débat, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's no doubt that Canada is currently in the midst of an unprecedented national public health crisis. Since the beginning of 2016, more than 8,000 Canadians have lost their lives as a result of opioid overdose. This is nothing short from tragic. Every community in Canada has been affected by it, from small towns to big cities. Many lives have been lost senselessly. Last year, I met a mother who lost her only daughter to opioids overdose. She told me her pain and anguish of thinking about her daughter into the wee hours of the night. She could not find answers. She did not know where to turn to. She just wanted to prevent other young people from being victims of this crisis. Just recently, Mr. Speaker, I attended a funeral of a young man who I've known for many years, whose best years were ahead of him. He was passionate, energetic, brilliant, and had a heart of gold. We lose countless other young men and women like this each and every day. And I want to thank many of the members in this chamber who shared their personal experiences, because I don't think a single person in this chamber is immune from this loss. I also want to thank and acknowledge and extend my deepest condolences to the families of many young people that have died during these years. We share in their pain, we weep with them, and we will always remember these young men and women and the work we do. They're not a statistic. They're our sons, our daughters, our neighbors, and our friends. Mr. Speaker, I want to just give you a sense of the things that our government has undertaken since taking office in 2015. In 2016, our government invested more than $331 million in an effort to respond to the crisis and address broader issue of substance use. Budget 2017, $100 million was allocated over 5 years, which equals $22.7 million annually to ongoing efforts to enhance related harm reduction, as well as to strengthen the evidence base. The substantive portion of my debate will be focused on the evidence base, Mr. Speaker, but let me just outline some of the other things that our government has undertaken. Budget 2018, $231.4 million over 5 years was put towards establishing, for example, an emergency treatment fund, develop national public education campaign, enhance the ability of frontline personnel to detect and intercept illegal drugs at the border, as well as accelerate and expand access to timely national public health data and analysis. Our government has also used its existing resources to support and respond to the crisis. For example, $16 million in emergency funding to BC and Alberta alone, currently funding 28 opioid-specific projects through the Substance Use and Addictions Program at a value of $9.5 million a year. 32 supervised consumption sites have been approved in Canada. 12 federally trained public health officers have been deployed to jurisdictions. More than 42 kilograms of fentanyl has been seized since April of 2016 to September of this year. We moved the overdose anecdote naloxone to non-prescription status and made it more widely available. And there's a number of other initiatives, Mr. Speaker, but let me just speak primarily on the need for data. I've heard many people speak this evening, and I know everyone here means well, and I think everybody comes to this debate from a right place. But I think we need to be frank with each other. Nobody knows the answer, Mr. Speaker. There is no silver bullet. There are things that governments can do, and as a government we're doing, but at the core of it, we need more data. We need more information. We need more research. This is why we have and we will continue to support research at the Canadian Institute of Health Research. Over the last 5 years, CIHR has invested more than $88 million in research in areas related to problematic substance use. This includes $22 million in research related to problematic opioid use. Research supported by these investments provide new knowledge and the evidence needed to make informed policies in order to better address the needs of Canadians suffering from opioid use. For example, CIHR recently announced an investment of $1.1 million for a project conducted by the University of British Columbia, which focuses on evaluating the benefits of expanding the availability of prescribed opioids for the treatment of opioid use disorder. More specifically, this research project will explore how patients with different characteristics respond to treatment, which will help in the design and expanded services for patients. In addition to this research project, CIHR is supporting various research initiatives aimed at addressing the opioid crisis. And I would like to provide an overview of some of these initiatives, which are providing the important evidence that are needed for us as governments to make informed decisions. I wish to begin by highlighting a pan-Canadian research consortium on problematic substance use that CIHR is supporting, the Canadian Research Initiative in Substance Misuse, or CRISM. CRISM is generating timely evidence related to the treatment of opioid use disorder by facilitating communication and collaboration between researchers, service providers, policymakers, patients, and people who use substances. In effect, it has a wraparound approach, Mr. Speaker. It aims to translate evidence-based interventions for substance use into clinical practice, community-based prevention, harm reduction, and health system changes. For example, CRISM developed the first Canadian guideline for managing opioid use disorder. This guideline, released in March of this year, addresses current gaps in care of opioid use disorder. It serves as an educational tool for Canadian health professionals and provides clinical practice recommendations for the treatment of opioid use disorder. The guidelines also serve as a main resource in forming development of evidence-based strategies relating to treatment access policies on opioid use disorder across Canada. CRISM is also addressing evidence gaps related to medication-assisted therapy for treating prescription opioid use disorder. With a $4.4 million investment in CIHR, CRISM is conducting the Optima study, a national clinical trial to compare and evaluate two models of care for prescription opioid use disorder. Optima will generate evidence in real-life clinical practice settings that will be used to inform patient care and improve health outcomes for all Canadians. In addition to providing guidance on optimal strategies to treatment of problematic opioid use, CRISM is conducting research to facilitate this and scale up promising interventions that reduce the harms associated with opioid consumption. CIHR, Mr. Speaker, is providing an additional $7.5 million to CRISM for the implementation of the science program on opioid interventions and services. There are a number of other initiatives, Mr. Speaker, that I can speak about. CIHR opioid crisis, for example, knowledge synthesis initiative. Through the initiative, CIHR invested $1.9 million in 22 research teams of experts and policymakers of rapidly informed policies on opioids by addressing the most pressing evidence needs. These research projects were directly informed by stakeholders that are on the front lines of opioid crisis, including service providers, community advocates, and policymakers at all levels of government. Mr. Speaker, there's no question that we need more information in order to be able to make sound decisions. While we're waiting for that information, Mr. Speaker, we have, as a government, undertaken a number of very important initiatives that I spoke about earlier, including investing in a number of different initiatives directly targeted towards this crisis. As I said earlier, there is no silver bullet, but research is going to be at the core of a long-term solution that could address some of the underlying issues related to this crisis. And I just want to close again, Mr. Speaker, by saying that we all need to work together as parliamentarians. It's important that we recognize this to be a crisis, this to be an issue that needs to transcend party divisions and party lines, and to look at this from a science-based approach, one that focuses on research, one that undertakes some immediate interventions, and ultimately come out so that this crisis can be curtailed. I know this is a difficult conversation for many, and I do want to thank all my colleagues for their participation today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.